Okay. Hello, my name is Michael Reyes,
Hello, my name is Yazmin.
and this is our podcast on intersectionality. So, intersectionality defines how different categories such as race and gender combine with one another that determines an individual's discrimination and privileges in their society. For example, how a black woman would face more discrimination in her life when compared to a white male. It's important to discuss intersectionality because it gives sociologists a critical view of how people are treated by their society. And this is especially important regarding how diverse the United States is. Many individuals come from different backgrounds, and not everyone feels the same societal pressures and privileges. For example, Hispanic families may come from poorer backgrounds when compared to white families, and access to education and options in the workforce vary drastically. It's categories like this that make it crucial for sociologists to examine what and how social factors affect certain individuals. And as for myself, I'm a straight Hispanic male. I've always seen hard work barely get me and my family by. And living paycheck to paycheck, I was constantly exposed to the hardships of financial trouble as a kid. And so my only view of the US is that hard work doesn't mean you succeed. I'm lucky enough to still have luxuries in my life, such as a computer, a car, and working AC. But as of lately, I have realized that these are just common things that the middle class has. Within my class, these are all considered classes of these are all considered luxuries. And I've been exposed to two different classes in my life within the US because I moved cities when I was in high school. I first grew up in Pico Rivera, and my first high school was El Rancho, which is inherently a poor city with a more dominant Hispanic population. My close friends from that school all go through the same stresses as I do, so it felt like everyone had to go through that in their life. It felt normal to me. My second high school that I moved to was in Rancho Cucamonga and is called Etowanda High School. And in Rancho, it is a much more middle and upper middle class neighborhood. And unlike Pico Rivera, Etowanda had a much more diverse population, and there wasn't one dominant group uh, compared to my old high school. And my friends never had to worry about having a working AC. They went on vacations very frequently, and even had cars while they were in high school. And for me, this is when I realized that um, the differences in my life. It was extremely clear to me that I have lived in much more poor and stressful conditions. My parents had to have had to work hard, especially with their backgrounds. My dad immigrated from El Salvador, and my mom was a Hispanic from an urban city in the California desert, a city called Mecca. And despite my dad going on to create his own construction business, and my mom becoming an educated and working as a CSI investigator, they still have had to deal with many societal pressures due to factors that they could not control. This is especially noticeable for my dad's side, who was discriminated against a lot in his work due to his young age and lack of education. And many troubles of obtaining credit, green cards, and much more slowed my family even more down. And in modern media, I never really see families depicted such as mine. I rarely see representation or even see myself on screen because of the societal standards. My family's because of societal standards, families depicted in films have much more access to luxuries than I've ever had. If anything, Hispanic individuals are always shot with poor occupations such as maids, farmers, and construction workers, then really never anything more. And it feels like Hispanic characters are simply used for inclusion. Now, I don't relate to most characters I see in film because I can't relate to the stress-free conditions they live in. I'm very grateful for everything I have in my life, but I simply can't relate to the US family norm.
Today, I'll be discussing about intersectionality. Sociologists refer to the system of social status as social stratification, and they use this phrase to categorize the system, the practice of dividing a society's population into distinct socioeconomic classes on the basis of characteristics such as wealth, income, race, level of education, and level of authority is known as social stratification. The concept of stratification, which refers to the various vertical layers that may be seen in a rock, is an effective approach to visualize social structure. The layers of a society are made up of its members, and the resources available to those members are not uniformly divided among the many layers. The individuals who own a greater quantity of resources make up the uppermost layer of the social structure, that is, stratification. The deeper levels of our society are composed of other groups of individuals who have relatively fewer resources as time goes on. Sociologists make a distinction between two distinct types of social stratification system. Closed systems allow for very little movement from one social position to another. They do not let people move between levels, nor movement from one social position to another. They do not let people move from between levels, nor do they allow social interaction to exist across different levels. Movement interaction are enabled across layers and classes in open systems, which are founded on the idea of accomplishment. The ideas that people have are shaped in part by the cultural values that are reflected, emphasized, and fostered by various systems. In addition to meritocracy, class systems and caste systems fall within the category of stratification systems. My class status, sex, gender, race, and ethnicity shape my relationship with the culture of the United States. For instance, it is typical for women to be expected to be sympathetic and emotional, whereas it is typical for males to be expected to be self assured and assertive. Or there are others who are quick to presume that pilots, surgeons, and engineers are male professionals, while teachers and nurses are female professionals. The extent of the influence that Latinos in the United States attribute to the color of their skin is significant. Latinos believe that the color of their skin is a significant component in their lives and the life opportunities they have, since it affects their potential to advance in this country. It shapes the experiences they have in their everyday lives, and it forces them to cope with prejudice. Although most Hispanics, like myself, hope to achieve this in the United States, it is more difficult for Hispanics to advance in American society due to their darker coloring. For instance, Hispanics in the United States may experience racism and a form of discrimination simply due to the fact that they are Hispanic. However, the severity of this racism may vary depending on the person's skin tone, with people of darker shades facing more problems. My status impacts how I engage with television and film. For example, Latinos are portrayed on television as being more violent than they are in shows that are shown in Spanish. It seems like Latinos are only ever represented as low lives or sidekicks at best, and sidekicks or low lives more frequently than not. According to TV Struggles to Reflect Latino Presence, Will It Get Better by Nicole Acevedo, a significant number of Latino performers have brought this issue to light, and they have accused Hollywood of denying them jobs in prominent films. These representations are negative. Television doesn't show the correct representation of Mexicans are. There was little acknowledgement of the many distinct cultures, customs, languages, and religious practices. People are led to assume that there is no diversity in the Latino population when they make the assumption that Latinos are all the same. This is an issue with the population when they make the assumptions that Latinos are not the same. This is an issue with the assumption. The lack of diversity can be extended into the variety of societal, economic, educational, and medical requirements that must be met. None of these issues will be solved if individuals in the United States continue to operate under the assumptions that all Latinos are either poor or wealthy. Help for more extensive community on both national and international scale is required in order to successfully address the majority of these issues. I engage with characters, especially main characters, who do not look like or represent me. According to 5 Tips to Create Engaging Characters by Bethany Henry, a way I associate with the most is the first tip provided. I enjoy giving the main character an external problem. For instance, the hero's life shouldn't be filled with nothing but sunshine and roses. Each character should be struggling with some kind of issue that requires them to find a solution, whether it's for his life, for respect, for the money to pay rent, or to perfect his recipe for food. This objective may at various moments appear to be quite self-evident and essential to primary storyline of the novel. For instance, he has a responsibility to preserve the globe. Nonetheless, it is essential to make this issue relevant to each individual character. And my question is the existence of gender disparity an unavoidable and essential component of social stratification?
And my question is, how can societies use intersectionality to create a positive change?